Okay, so we were onto the topic of data types, variables, constants. So this is done. Class, methods, and return type. This is done. We have to see how a constructor works. Otherwise, collections we have to start today. And so what is our intention is today to complete few things about the collections and how do we apply this collection to the original class. Let's say I'm going to create a contact management. In the contact management, what I want to do is just like trying to insert a record, view the record, delete a record, something like the possible combinations of methods I wanted to implement. But yesterday, if you look at our code, we tried to implement something like a basic classes we implemented. So what that would maximum do is take a parameters of an input method and try to manipulate something or calculate something and it's returning us. So the very basic programming we did like just like having whether it is a void or non-void, okay, return you have static return or non-normal return. So those things we have seen. Synthetically, I think this is should be making sense to you guys. And then we made little advanced progress like where you try to pass some params and then do some calculation, return them. Ideally, this is like any other programming where you write a method and then return. It's an obvious things, so it shouldn't be a big deal. So one small thing which I did is like I tried to create a record for an account. So just by calling fire and forget concept, a void method where I was giving an example. If you are having a return method, then we say it is a phone conversation, like say synchronous method. We expect something I call you, you're gonna return me something. Or I say hello, you also return back me hello, like phone conversation. Async methods and like fire and forget concept. So if you see async methods in Salesforce, yes, in future state you would be seeing there's I will write here. So what are things in the future? You based on the async methods, what are the collection of um, in Salesforce what they say? Based on this async method, we have a couple of implementations like future methods we have. So batch classes or a cubal class. Is this batchable or cubal? All this all talks about an interface. So where you try to implement. So basically they try to run in a chunk of records. So batch by batch they run through. So for these all they would require a void methods. So generally they all use void methods. Why? Because they just set to be as async methods. So generally they are void methods. But they process in chunk by chunk. Like how you have a data loader. So you load the data. So they also go by batch. If let's say you are under uploading 100 records, okay, take it. So let's say if you're uploading around 20,000, next say 1 million record. So 1 million record in one go, we cannot do it. So they should have some batch size. Let's say 100 record, will keep inserting. So 100 to the number, whatever it is, like multiplied is equal to the 1 million record. So that many number of times the batch has to run. So all those methods would be by default void methods, I'm saying, because they are a synchronous method. They all know about it. Is just like try to implement, pass, okay, insert it, fail, something there, broken up there only. So they do not return anything saying to you, saying that hey, this particular area, this got. I mean, they don't return anything to you. They just fire and go. So of course, when you want to do a bulk transactions, of course, we have to go with the void methods. We don't expect for any return. In few methods, yes, of course, for the integrations, yes, we can use it synchronized method where you're sending an let's say get me a registration ID of this particular candidate, all the details. So you are sending input as get as the ID name, ID number, whatever, student registration ID number. In response, you would get the entire student details. Yes, of course, in that particular time, you're waiting for the student response of his profile, whatever is required. So what is input parameter given? His registration ID. What is the result we got? So entire student, that particular student records information. So here it is what we say is synchronous method. I'm sending something and I'm returning back. So this all you'll see in the future state of an integration class or anywhere. So wherever I'm expecting some results, it's all a sync. Sorry, it's all synchronizations basically. To this extension, so what we wanted to have is So I'm going to deal something with CRUD operations on contact management. So while explaining the contact management, so I would deal with the list, set, and map, and I would use the possible whatever you have applied here, and then we're going to use them. So if else statements, for loop, all that we're going to bring it up there. So we're going to say what in what case what it can be used. Logically, we are trying to cover the syllabus also, but some Apex class which is on real time for contact records, we're going to implement them. But just before that, we have to know high level things about what we're going to do it, and then how we are applying it. That also we have to know. So let's take the leftover as yesterday's constructors, and that's a simple example you can give it. So I think you guys would have heard about param constructors, non-parametric constructors, or zero param constructors. Anyone?
Sorry, what is that question?
Have you heard about parameter constructors, zero parameters constructors?
Hey.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you know why constructors are used in I mean in general case? So this is a class we have. Do this class by default something is present with constructor? Okay, so let me tell you. Any class which we have, this applies to even Java also or any other program. So when someone talks about a constructor, the first point we have to know is um, every class by default they will have default constructor. Default constructor. So you need not to mention them. So for example, public class A, if you think, or let's say some student class you think. I just define the class name. That's it. You would be instantiating these objects, right? So let's say some method we haven't said that you think. Public void some display. Some method they have, and the logic goes here something. So what is our intention is, when I say about constructor, this is the class we have written. But when we wanted to call this display method, how do you do it? Student instantiate object instance. Student st is equal to new student. When I say this particular line, so when I do this, it is by default it's holding a default constructor. Well, only then we can instantiate some memory here. It's a default constructor, or we can call it as zero param constructor. Why? Because by default in this class, so there would be something called as like this: public student. Something like this is by default already there. So you need not to mention about this. So only then we're trying to able to call like this. You guys getting? I wanted to instantiate memory for this particular class. If you see, there would be constructor always, but this is not visible to everyone. So this is a default or a zero param constructor would be there. So if it is there by default, that's the reason we can call like this. So let's say, for example, one argument constructor. Let's use. So one argument means what? Could be string. I am just passing a random number here. String str. So your logic something goes here. So that time you cannot do this. You cannot instantiate a class like this. It will fail. Why it says? But you have written a class. There's no such constructor has been defined. So what is the key point here is, if I write a constructor, something like this one argument, if you write it, so you have taken a control of, you're writing all your own logic of constructors. So then you cannot find anything said like this. So forcibly you have to define a zero param constructor there. If no constructor is present, by default it works. If something like this one argument is written and you stop there and then you try to access like this, then it says, so no such arguments, no, this signature does not found. So of course, then manually we have to write the zero param constructor. Does this make sense? Because you have taken a control of your writing your own. So then of course you have to write this also. If none of them is written, it's fine. By default, so you can call like this. Since you have like this with the zero param, so then how do you instantiate a single arguments? So this for zero param it works, and for the one argument this is how it works. So you need to pass student name as, let's say, Albert. Is getting? So this is the one argument which you pass it here for the one argument constructor. So using this string here it goes, and you do logic something here and then calculate and then do logic something here. So this is we called as one argument constructor. Any questions here?
No, I'm good.
Okay. So this is instantiating object is done. What other things we can talk about in Constructor? So in Salesforce, I don't know, when generally in the programming, so when a class has been executed, constructors are the first one to run. So this also note we have to make it. Note. Constructors are the first one to execute when the class loaded. So this is a very important point, because people expect that on a load of the page only I want the record to be displayed. And how do you do it? So you should have a constructor. The constructor is displaying some record and then it's trying to show you some results. Without a constructor, if you're trying to do that activity, you cannot expect on a load of the page you can get some records. So that's the reason we say constructor is the first one to execute. So the moment the page is getting loaded or the class is getting loaded. So example could be someone is expecting like how display list of records on the page load. So this is doing some activity on constructor where the moment the page is getting loaded, it is calling the constructor, and in the constructor you have written like queried something like select name from accounts or whatever, a name from contact whatever, and those all you're trying to display in the load of a page. So let's quickly write a class and then quickly check how all this works, and let's try to print something here. After this simple class, no constructor explanation, we'll get into the collection mode. It's the list set and map. A simple explanation I'm just giving here about the constructor student student. I'm just giving constructor. So public class constructor. A constructor will be always the same name as the class name. So if you see here, same name as class name. So we'll come back to this. So I won't write anything here as of now. So what I'm gonna do, you see, public word display. So there's another which I'm written. So here I'm gonna do some system.debug. Hello. It's a non-static method. I'm writing this way. Of course, how do I call this? I'll tell you. Generally, you would have called by class name, object instance, So this is a very common thing about. So this is how you call a class. Sorry, this is how you instance an object, and using this SB dot, so display the method whatever you have, you're gonna call them. So then you're gonna get the results. So, but what I'm trying to say is this is a default or a zero param constructor. So when you have not written any, when you have not written any constructors by default, I mean you have not disturbed the logic of default constructor. So what I can say is this is default constructor. That's the reason you have no anything present here, of course. So I'm gonna execute this. So that would print me some result saying that hello, you are in a zero parameter constructor. So non, it is a non-static method. Yes, this is what I've printed here. So then a quick reference here. So what I'm trying to do is
But
now.
constructor should have the same name as a class name, right?
So this is a simple
Constructor.
method. This is a simple method so far I've written.
Okay.
So what did I do is I didn't write any constructor there. I have written a
Oh,
simple method. So this is
okay,
not with
okay.
the help of
That's
object
fine.
instance. Yes, constructor should be by default like this. This is something we didn't disturb any a constructor logic. So far it is running smooth. By default, every class will have a constructor. That is what we assume. And
Okay.
so now I'm disturbing them. Like I would not give a zero param constructor, but I'm just going to give a single param here called as string str. And if I have see if the variables are not tied to any of these methods, if you see they are class variables, you can see. So public um, string student name. If I just do this, so this dot student name you can give it, and then you can say is equal to str. So why this keyword we are using it? This is like looking for a reference of student. So where you are not referencing for some other method here, you're referencing for a class variables. If this is a variable not inside any of the method, so then these are called class variables. If you mention something inside a method, then they are local variables. That's getting. If I mention something here, string ABC, then they are local variables. Anything outside the method, whatever it is, it's respect to a class, then they are class variables. Of course. So when I want to mention here inside a method like this, you have a constructor where I can say this is one or constructor, one argument constructor. So one argument constructor, when it we have written. So we are trying to reference class variable. Okay. So str is something that you're gonna pass it, and then we're gonna have this deal. So now um, here I can print system.debug. Okay. So one more thing. Let's see the concept of which is gonna execute the first. I'm gonna call this constructors first. System.debug. I'm gonna give it, and then I'm gonna print the student name. So likewise, we'll get to know whether this method is executing first or this is executing first. You guys getting? Perfect.
Yeah.
So I've written a method and I also have a constructor. So what is my assumption is, okay, let me call a student here. So whatever is a student, it will try to print here. But in the constructor, I'm not printing anything here. So what I'm trying to do is I'm going to pass a variable to here, the value, that's Albert. Albert would assign to a student. But this is the one we're going to do it. But we are calling this method as the very first thing. Let's see. So now I want to show another crazy to you thing is we don't have any zero param constructor, but you're trying to call this ab.display. Look at the fun. It says constructor is not defined. Why? Because we have disturbed the constructor signatures where you have written one argument signature here. Where is the zero arguments? If you not test any of the constructors, of course by default they have it. But if you touch the constructor, like putting a one argument, so the default logic, whatever it is, it will go off. So in order to avoid that, so we have to forcibly write a default constructors like zero param constructors. You have to write it there, write down. If you simply wanted to execute, which one? If you simply want to execute the display method, and I don't care about this if thing, of course you should write a default constructor. You may not be writing anything here. May code be there, may not be there. Anything is fine. But at least a constructor should be defined here. Only then it works out. Is getting? If you have a custom constructor defined, make sure you have zero param constructor added. So why I'm saying you should be added. If you call like this, it is fine. You need to have like this. If you don't call something like this, it's okay, fine, no problem. So now if I don't pass anything, it's a zero param constructor. If I pass something here, it's a one argument constructor. If I pass two params, it is a two arguments constructor. So I can have a number of constructor like that. So getting right. So I can have not only one argument, I can have five arguments also. The same constructor name. So we don't worry about a constructor will always will be a class like name. It's not one argument, you can have two arguments also. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass here Albert. So I'm going to pass Albert and I'm going to display this. So what is your expected result? See, I have a debug only here in the void display. So my question is, hello, it's in non-static method, and then the student would be displayed, or the student value would be blank, because I'm uh, not like calling this in constructor. So which one you would think that the first one will execute? Your display method will execute or a constructor would execute? That is the thing we have to check now. What do you guys assume?
Constructor.
Okay. So Albert I have given a value should come here, and I'm purposely calling db.sp.display method. So let's see. So student Albert has been stored. So we are storing this Albert in where? We see we are storing in a class variables. So the moment when you started passing a value here in what is that? So the moment you start passing a value to Albert, automatically it went first and then assigned the student value. So now the student value is having, we have kept the value there. So the moment sp.display something you're calling, already a student value has been there, so it is printing directly. Of course, I said this is a class variable, it could be used anywhere. If you're writing a variable within a method that is local, when I say, so this particular variable cannot be used by other methods. But if write as at the top, it is accessible throughout the class. Is getting? If it is written here, it is accessible throughout the class. All right, that is what we required. Okay, so the moment when we call this method, what was the display if you see? So this is what the results we got. So I just wanted to print how you guys gonna execute this as a default constructor. So this is not a default now. This is one argument constructor. For a default constructor, how do you execute? This is how you execute. System. You don't pass anything for a default constructor. But for same thing, if you wanted to pass like two argument constructor, so something like this, you should take it. So here it would be passing based on this integer, string, boolean, whatever you can have. So let's say Albert, the user is active or not. I would say true or false. So what is his signature? It looks like signature is saying that hey, it is of student, where the first one I'm taking a string, so str. Let's say the second one is taking the boolean is active. The user is active or not, that you are trying to do it here. You think something like this? You have a constructor has been defined. Hmm? So like this, you think a two argument is there. For that, how do you print the results? If you see, this is how it is. Albert is str string, and the boolean is active. So you're passing true or false here. So it doesn't have any single case case. So boolean is just true or false. So any questions here? I think we write a method like this and then do some logic and then we pass Albert or true. So we can pass on to the two arguments and then so on. So what is the advantage of a constructor? It is the first one to load in a program. And of course, when you have a constructor as defined, so it makes your work easy. Something that you calculate and make into the constructors ready so that the other methods can utilize them. If it is a class variable, something defined, you can that could be used by other methods. On a load of something that you are trying to get the actual ID of a record and you got some processing of whether it's valid or not. So if that is a student, if that particular customer is a valid or not, if you say based on the valid or not, you can process next methods. So the moment when the method is called, first we check the user who logged in is a valid or not. We just get inside. If it's not valid, then we have some other logic to run. So like that, the constructors are we just gets the user who what type of user it is. For this user, should we wanted to show this or not? It all divides. I mean, depends on the what development it is. But for ideally constructors, you will be the first one to load, so you can check onto it, and you can map the variables or values something to the class variables. It's just this is an example of just the class variable. You can have a public list of account. You can have, and at the very beginning only at the constructors, you are trying to someone passed his name or passed his company ID or his registration ID. You queried the record and you kept ready here in this class variable. So just today it was a string. Tomorrow you may have a record only directly present there. And using that record, you may be helping out to query somewhere else their respective relevant records, or you wanted to press that record only, whatever you can do it. So it's not limited to only to a string. It can be whatever the things you can pass it. And based on that, we can have like a bind variable last time we used. In this class, I think this is a good example I'm saying. So let's say in a constructor passing ID, and that we're trying to query here and we're not returning anything. So account we have no. So if you define something like account at the top, so this dot some account record name is equal to this if you do. So the constructors by default the record has been queried and it is associated like a class variable like this. You think here it is a string it is, but here will be public account ABC something, and that ABC account who is hold the entire account records information. So you can play with that record. Does make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So now let's come to a scenario where I want to talk about so collections. So in the collections we set list, set and map. Very important thing. Even for the collections we have a class. Um, List, set and map. Very important thing to understand. So why would we say it is list? If you see, records are stored in a sequential order. So we have to talk some bullet points here. Records are stored in sequence. Sequence is like 1, 2, 3, which will have an index. It will store the records in the proper index. So the second point is you can access them by index as well. So when I say account of fifth record, so it'll give me fifth record what this person. So account of 10th record what this person 10th it will give. So you are accessing by sub index. Let's say in the list you have 2000 records. So you're expecting go get me the fifth no, what is that? Okay, 1500 record you get it. It'll try and display because it knows 2000 record are placed in a list would be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 like that and it'll start. So basically they're starting from the index. So when you're expecting for 1500 and a record, so it's just gonna get you and display the right record which you wanted it. But basically what I'm trying to say is they are in a sequence, you cannot break the sequence. So they will follow some index I'm saying. And one more point about this is um, so with the help of the sequence, you can no swap the records. Like, hey, third index go to the fourth, or fourth index come to fifth. So you can have a swapping of index can be easily possible, or swapping of records is possible. Like moving or swapping the index. So this will help out to swap the records. And the fourth point, what I could say is record starts with 0. It's on or not the record starts with 1, 2, 3 like that. So record starts with 0. Like in any array statement, it also starts with 0, 1, 2, 3, right? So like that, record starts or in the list, the index, the starts with 0. Okay, we'll put this way. List index starts with 0. So any record you're trying to insert, it will be inserted in a sequence I'm saying. So one after the other. So you can get to know who came first and who is next. For sure, this will never change. So nobody can change this unless and until you swap the value between the one record and another record. But how will you do a swap? But you'll get to know which record is the first one added there. In terms of created date, we can figure it out. That's okay. I'm talking that in terms of records. But ideally, if you see in a list, so what you added, that would be the first one. The next would be goes second. So that's so on. So index you cannot beat out. They would follow the same way. But if the numbering, if you change, like swapping and all, of course, the result would be. So you have originally modified the value. So what I'm trying to say is, a list would be sequence one by one after the other. So follow the index with 0, 1, 2, 3, so on, and based on that you can work on. So best thing is that okay. So whatever I have sent the 5 records, the 5 record inserted in a sequential order. So where I don't want it to mess up with the sequence, if you see. So list is helping out. Whatever you're given, a proper list of records will be inserted. So that is a pros. And the cons would be so they don't care about duplicates. So list may have, it can have duplicates. Duplicate records or items, whatever you can call. So list can have duplicates. So if you say if one record, let's say Albert is there, again you're trying to insert Albert, it doesn't care. It tries to have the value. But ideally for many program logic, we may not have a duplicates. If present, it will be accuracy thing. So many times original logic would have written it went to the testing and then too many records have the same thing has been appeared there. Possibly they are having duplicates. Okay, now this is one drawback we have. So with this drawback, that could be eliminated in this two of the other options. So let's see. Syntax of this list would be a list. We can have a date type here. And then variable name. So it's a list variable name, okay? Is equal to new. This is how it is. So this variable would be a list variable. And data type could be any data types, like a primitive data types you can have. User defined class also you can have, like wrapper classes also you can have. Whichever the inner class which doctrine, right? So yeah, we can have that also. A simple example could be list of string. So str list. Now do you add an elements to this list? So there are a couple of ways. So what is the data type? The same thing originally added. Str list dot add. So first element you're trying to add is if we just print all the 4 records, that show because the list has the duplicates, it can have it. But if you see index 0, 1, 2, 3, size of this list is 4 records, but index is 0 to 3. Maybe Leo here. Started recording. Yeah. So when I wanted to print this, some dot, when I wanted to debug, so you can say simply str list. It will print out the. So what are the items we have in this str list? Okay. So let's try to print this in the developer console and see them. So to check this type of results, you do not write any class or check the results. See, simple anonymous window is helping us to quickly check the results, what it is. str list, Albert, Leo, Newton, Maxwell. So this is, so now the list has Albert, Leo, Newton, and Maxwell. You can also have a duplicate elements. Yes, it is possible. So what I want to do additionally. So I can add the same name twice. It should appear twice. So that is one check. And let's see a couple of methods we have that will do it. So if you go to list class, this is all in developer guide only have. So what are the various list functions they have? They would have said to you here. You see here, list clear means you will clear out the value. This is something like constructors we have. Like how do we have uh, class name and then you return open and close where it tries to have empty constructors. So this is something you can copy the constructor value or set you wanted to copy. You have a constructors here defined. Otherwise you see here list. So this is how they instantiate. And add is the proper statement where you try to add a value to a list. Look at these methods we have. So an examples, okay. Simple constructors, you try to add a integer here. Of course, worked fine. And then you're trying to copy one list, another list. So let's say a list one which is having here. You try to add this. And now you're trying to copy to the L2. So just say ls1 in the braces here. So whole value of the ls1, list one, you try to copy it to the L2. So that's your you try to copy. So one list, another list. You cannot put equals to, but you have to do this way. So because all the way you are instantiating some memory of the new incoming list and adding to ls2. Some set records. So I'll explain about set, what it is doing. Set is also same way where how list is there, but these guys are unique records. We cannot have a duplicate here. So such sets also you can add it to a list, but both the data types should be same. If you're dealing with your integer and your list also should be an integer. So make sure you have a same data type you're dealing with. So these are the couple of methods we have. Add, we say index. You want the particular index you want to add? Let's say, so 1 to 5 already an index is there. On the third index, you wanted to add some record. So you can give 3 and you can give some name. So it will be added a new record there. It makes a space for us, and then it shifts for fourth and fifth record to a higher it, and the third it makes as a free, and then it inserts that particular record, new record there. So this is something that where you give index and add an element to a specific index position. Add is a general element where you try to add some records to the data type. So like you can get all the list and you can add a record, all the bunch of list records, whatever you have, you can add to one list. All the same set records you can have, you can add to one list. So these are the possible methods we have. Clear means it'll clear out, clone means it'll create a clone copy of it. We're gonna check that whether this particular list can contain this value. That also we can check. So you can get the index. Index means so which current index your position you're standing on. Even that will print. Otherwise, we check majority time we check whether it is empty or not. Because whether if it is not empty, then we can insert the records list of records. If the list itself is having some dummy or empty records, how can I say go insert this all the list whatever it present? Insert it will fill saying that there's no record in that. So prior to that, we do a empty check at the very beginning. So if the record is that particular list is not having any elements, we can't do anything. If they have, please insert the record. So we'll see that also. So size is the general thing. Is empty, size, and then add contains. These are the very frequent used methods. Size is basically wanted to say, hey, your size is, of that particular list is greater than 0, then do this. Greater than 1, do this. So you can get such thing like that. You can remove the index also in a time. So is empty, they're checking. They have in a particular class. It's iterator. Okay. Boolean method, it is empty. And what we take is we try to call a method, but that particular list is having empty or not. Anyway, we're going to deal with them also. So we'll see that. So what I want to do is str.size. I wanted to print the size of this method. It'll tell this list size. Hmm. I will check is empty. That means whether this particular list is empty or not. It'll say true or false. If it is empty, it'll say true. If it is not empty, it'll say false. Hmm. What else? So list.contains Newton. This contains Newton. This contains ABC. So like this, you can have all the methods you can use it. All we're trying to check is whether that list size empty or not, and does it contains. These are the frequent we use. So let me try to print them. You see this. So the first one is having 2 times Albert. That means it can hold duplicate records. Has a list, it can hold duplicates. Size of this list is yes, of course, 5 elements we added. So that's the reason 5 records here. If the list is empty, it says false. Why? Because it's not false. Sorry, it is not having empty. It is having some value in it. So that's the reason it says false. This is not empty. It has some value. So false. Value is false. So the list contains Newton. Yes, of course, they contain one of the record is Newton, and that's the reason it's written true. So list contains ABC. ABC is not present here. So that's the reason it is false. Any questions here?
No.
So what about Jamsir and Murthy?
No, I'm good.
I'm good.
Okay, then quickly let's jump into set. So what set is doing? It does the same. It also have the add operations. Everything we have same. But the crazy thing is I don't have any index. So let's take the point of whatever you mentioned here, and yeah, of course, the data types also they would match. Records are stored in sequence. The first is records are not stored in sequence. Not in sequence. You can access them via the index. No index-based access. Index is not used in set. Index is not used in set because we don't know where. If you don't have, we are not storing in sequence. Then how can I get your index? Correct, right? If one after the other records, I can give you 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. If you're not storing in a sequence, then how can I say in which index you are into? So we don't have that. Swapping of records is possible. No, I think this point we can eliminate. Because index only will not have what is swap. So list index, even the index also don't have because they don't have index only what to start with. Set can have. Set cannot have duplicate records since they are don't know case about the set is case sensitive. So what do you mean by this? Set is case sensitive. So they are unique. They don't have any index, but records are not stored in sequence also. They are case sensitive and they look for unique records. Tell me an example. So let me change this to type set and to a set here. Tell me an example. So we can put str not list, we can put str set. So the not list, it's a set. Same, str set, Albert Leo, and again I'm adding Albert here. So what is the difference that we get it here? Is there? Hello.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
So what I'm trying to ask you a question here is what the result would be here.
it'll print all of them.
The case sensitive, right? Everything will be there.
It's a case sensitive. So be careful. So set is a case sensitive. When you want to debug this, it'll print all the value. Though Albert is the same spelling if you see across, but it's a case sensitive. So let's see printing them. And they also have a very similar methods like how we have print the size, empty or not, all this, all they're also the same. So let's see what it gets. You see, Albert, all it got printed, and we can't justify onto the sequence. So look at the sequence how they appear. Did I insert that the same way? So my first record was Albert, and then this, and then the Leo, and then look at this. So it just came caps as first preference, and the next preference went to this, since it has caps. And the next it went to the Albert, and then small case. At the last, all the caps bases finished, and then it went to the smaller case. Absolutely. They also would follow some sequence, but it is something on the caps and small letters, and they have some sequence to display on that. Why? Because they also come with the sorting orders. Listers are okay, but default. There's another point we have to make it. By default, set is sorted in alphabetical. Okay, see, alphabetical. That something is caps are small. Look at this. First all the caps, and then the closest caps, and then after the A, so then they follow the small caps. So I would not say sorted in the way of alphabetical caps and small. I'm saying it's not about the ABC sorting. I'm not saying about it. So of course they also appear, but they should have some precedent saying that. Okay, for example, here if you see Albert, if Leo has Leo as 3 also as a cap, then they would be the second one to display. Let's see this. First one and the second one is we have Leo as a caps here. Let's try to display. According to me, first it should display this and then it should display this. Why? Because A comes at the first and the LEO comes at the second, because alphabetically if you see the captions at the second, and then rest of them this and this and then last is this. That is what my expectation is. Let's see. Oh no, still the same. So then we even this also we cannot rely on. Albert and then
Capital A has taken priority, right? So that's I think.
oh, still. So then they're coming with the alphabet sequence. So
Yeah.
let's put something on. So instead of this, I would just put bus.
And then bus will come after all A's, all capital S.
Yeah. But the default they do some sorting here. But your list won't do any sorting.
Yeah.
This works. A and then comes to the B and then C and then so on. But why the small if you see at the last? So they are not having any caps here. So that's the reason it's thrown last. Maybe if you have all small caps, sorry, yeah, small letters. BUS as a small if you have, then after the Albert, the BUS would have been appeared. Since it has one cap, B as cap, so that's the reason it appeared in the next to the Albert here. Of course, by default, there no wording at least ABCC. That way the sequence they have a sorting by default, but in list you can expect irrespective put a caps letter on the very beginning, and then the next instead letter is a small letter. They don't care because they don't follow anything with the sorting here in the list. You should manually sort. See sort item we have items in the list ascending order. It will sort in ascending order. They have a method for list to sort it. Look at the set class we have. Set methods work on set, and there's unordered collections. So unordered means it is not a sequence, or so other terms what do they say? Ordered collection is comes one after the other. Unordered means they don't have in a sequence. Otherwise, so they all have limited types, of course. So what do you see? The uniqueness of set elements are user defined types defined by equals and hash code. Okay. Otherwise, they are case sensitive. Two set element that differs only by case are considered distinct. Only the exact match is considered to be okay distinct. So if you say BUS, small letter BS two times if right, then only I'll eliminate. Okay, boss, your duplicate. If the B is caps and one other one is small, so that it doesn't care. So that's an example they're saying here. So when it is distinct, exact copy should be there. Otherwise, copying a set, how do we have in the list constructor the same way they're having it? And the methods also, if you see them, very similar methods. Clear, add, contains, equals, is empty, remove, size. These all would be the same methods. So comparing to these two guys, what is advantage I'm saying? List, you can have a dump of record where it have an index. Set, we don't have that, but they are unique. So the combination of set and list, if you don't get it, then they will form a map. Getting? Oh, let me try to copy this because a couple of things right here. Okay. So what is the map? Map is a key value pairs. Key value pair. Has you heard about anything on map or in a Java? You would have heard about hash map code, something like this. Hello.
Yeah.
So then you would have been familiar with the maps, right? So what the map is holding? Key value. In Salesforce, what you say is list and a set. The combination of these would form a map. So a map is here for me generally. So it is first thing is set and then come on list. Get it? Assume this is how it is. The structure is how it is. So it could be here map always would expect here unique and there here can have duplicates. So what it indicates? Unique is always indicate the set record, right? And have can have duplicate indicates the list. But there, um, so one ID you can have a number of records also can have. But we don't worry about it. Always you should be having unique the left hand side and the record at the right hand side, which can have the same duplicate also possible. Example, a map value can have like this. Um, so A for apple. So this is key and this is value. Again, A for no, you say key. No, key is different, but I'm saying apple. So what I'm trying to say is the keys are here unique, different, but the values all are apple only. So that is what I'm saying here. A is but basically a set, and list is nothing but a duplicate value. Can have three times duplicate values. You can have a number of times also. All we rely on to the key. So map is following the key value pairs. So we always rely on the key. Key is the unique value. Sorry, key is the unique reference what you have in this map, and value is nothing but where it's basically it can have a list of records, it can have a duplication, can expect it. So for me, set and list, the both combination what I say is this map. So let's have syntax here. Firstly, we'll go to the map class and check what it says. So map key and values are we having the user different data types. Where primitive data types you can have objects, you can have. So this all we'll get to know. So generally, we assume that map would have two things. Um, so key and a value. That is important things. Uniqueness of map is important, and map keys are case sensitive. It's why it's case sensitive. Again, I said it's like a set. um, when it says case sensitive, I can have APPLE Apple as ES caps, and again small letter APLE small. Both are considered to be unique records. Okay, so absolutely this is acting like a set only. So that is the reason we say contains key. Get that particular contains key is there or not. We'll check that. Now, how do we use a map? If you see, we have put is a method. We have like how we have add as a function. We have for a list dot add of data type whatever string, so it got added to it. For example, for map we have put what we're trying to put. One is the key and then one is the value. So it's a key value plus, right? So whenever you try to get key, so the respective values you can get it easily. So maps are a little more easy to process the records than compared to the list and set because they are much more faster. If you try to use simply a list of records to process and get the results, yes, 10 lines are there. If you want to do maps, it can be done by the 4 lines. So that's especially about the maps because they make work easy. They don't keep looping around the things. Whereas list, it can have a complicated things. Of course, they also can be achieved by the list also. But if you write 10 lines of code, 20 lines of code, so in the future state, so it would be taking a lot of time consuming things. Of course, list has own benefits and like map also has own benefits. So far, I think we have been adding a method by this. So there could be another way also adding a value, but it is an hard-coded way where we say even for set also it can be done. I'm just giving an example. So here you don't put this, but you give this way. Open and close braces. So this is something like hard coding value, where you don't use add method here. So you say set as apple apple. You add a value, and then if I do a system.debug. So this also could be possible, but you are trying to add via through directly the instance. Look at this. So it is as similar as like add methods what we used. Same way for the list also. So open and close braces, flower braces you can have like this, and you can add the value here. Similarly for the map also. So for the map, um, so map you need to define the data types what you're dealing with. It's a string, comma string, because this is set to be key and this is set to be value. So you can have map record you think, and then you have new instantiate map. Here also you can have a open and close braces, but so you want to write it as a is what string keys, right? These are string, and we say it tends to. Is getting? So this is a case sensitive. Of course, when it's a case sensitive, both are considered to be unique records, and of course they're having Amazon. The same I'm giving a for Amazon twice, but here I'm giving different value. You getting what I'm trying to do? So this is the data type of string, and the value data type is string. So that's the reason we have two quotes and then comma, two definition and then comma. So it's a key and it's a value. Getting? I'm trying to display the map record here. Somewhere something is missed. Is it double? Could be double also. Equals in the basically it is a map value. We say that A tends to be sorry, A tends to Apple, A tends to Amazon like that it is. Um, okay. It's not a single line, guys. It's a equal and then greater symbol. So do you see this? In a map for A for key and then this is the value. And this is a key and this is a value. So this is we're trying to do something like a hard code value. We're trying to put it here. Otherwise, we can have a method something like this. You just instantiate here, and I'm saying map record dot put, just like we have add method, no, same way. So what is the key you have, and what is the value you wanted to put it? So values are key is A and value is Apple. So like that you can put as many. So AB for Apple, and then A for Amazon. Guys, look at this. This is small. This is caps. This is caps, and this is small. But all these are unique keys for the consider of set. And the list of values you see, Apple twice it repeated, Amazon, and then Amaze. So all this should be unique when I wanted to print them. So let's print them and check. So prior to printing, we have a couple of methods to do with. So let's take a debug here. Map record. Okay, fine. So another one I'm just trying to put map record dot key set. So that will print me only the key set values. See, the definition itself says, right, key set. Set means what? This is basically set type. For list only, we say values. Look at this next one. Map record dot values. Getting map record dot size. Values means what? So map of values. If I say set, give me A B A B. This will get it. When I say values, Apple Apple Amazon Amazon will get it. When I say size, you give me what number? What is the size of that particular map? So what else you can have? So generally, what we do is we say contains map record dot contains. So you tell me map of contents key A. Of course, A contains we have it. It returns true here because the map has in the key what I say A, B, A, all are keys. And then I'm saying that A is a key. It says true. So one more thing we have. Let's try to do this also. We say contains. So basically, I'm checking contents here in this. It will should intro because in the map we have it. Map get value based on key. This is what I do. We pass a key, you give me a value. I pass AB, you give me apple. Okay. Map dot get of what is that? If I say A, you should give me Amazon. Map record. So map record get value based on a key A. So A is the key which I'm saying. So you should tell me A for Amazon. Because I'm passing A, you should get me value. If I ask for a key, you should give value. So key is unique, right? So always I pass a key, give me this associate value means you should give a value of it. I think we have decent here. So otherwise you see there are a couple of methods you can go and check. So get values, put, get the key set, check empty, size, remove, deep clone, contains key. All I think which are basic things we got it already here. So we've added value. Let's try to print all of them and check. You see this? Let's come to the point. What are things that we're using it here? At the very beginning line, map record when I printed it, it given me Amazon, AB Apple, and then AB Miss, and the last is A. Okay, when I wanted to print only the keys, you gave me A, AB, A, AB. So keys are given. Okay? When you wanted to print only the values, you give me the Apple, Apple, Amazon, Miss. When you want to say size, how many 4 records we have? When I say, hey, this A is contains in this map, you say, yes, it is contains, so true. And I say, map record dot get value based on the key A. When I say get me A, if I say A for Amazon. Got it? So any questions, guys, here?
No.
These are the very important things when we deal with maps. So you need to always, you would be always querying values, you would be querying sometimes set, you would be passing them some key, and based on that, you would be getting some value. So this all would be using for sure in the future state. So please practice this. Uh, put some random values here and then try to get their keys values. You pass some key and get the value. So at least you try once of this. So it will be helpful to you. Okay, I don't know whether you guys have energy. It's already been, you guys would have drained. I don't know. Is this fine or should we continue tomorrow or we can continue with the, writing some content management class?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Okay, Jamsil said off, that's it. So what about Murthy?
I'm fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let this be a constructors and collections class. So we can implement them, no problem. So no tearing hurry. So we can complete this tomorrow. Very important things that we spent and using these 3 things, please guys, we have to, you guys please practice once about the collections. So collections are the backbone of this Salesforce programming. Without a collections, you cannot do anything because they are the one who tries to process a list of records. You try to compare something, you get the unique records and you do a map. So sometimes map of map you can have. So to get into more of the complex, first the basic things you need to try it out with. So please check this. Collection is very important here. I think this also we've completed today and this is also is done. So we are in the basic class, still don't mind. So I think by tomorrow we should be able to cover up this basic class. So then we'll jump on to the circle queries, how complex we can write, and then we have triggers. So the moment we complete the triggers,